Hello, I'm Laura Meyer, and today I'm joined by Mary Ellis, CEO and co-founder of PheroSyn. Hi, Mary. Thanks for joining today.
Hi, Laura. Thank you for having me.
Mary, can we start by you telling us what your business does?
Sure. So, PheroSyn synthesizes identical copies of pheromones which are found in nature. So, we're mimicking nature and we're using those pheromones in order to monitor and control pests in agriculture.
Right. And what a brilliant idea and a brilliant thing to do. Um, can you tell us about your journey into entrepreneurship and what motivated you with having your own business and starting your own business?
Sure. I think I got interested in entrepreneurship when I was taking my MBA. This was an MBA in Canada, and there was lots of personality profile tests available to me, which I took ad nauseum. And they all kind of pointed in the same direction and suggested to me that entrepreneurship was a route that I'd really enjoy. And at that point in time, I'd just been in education. I was 30, but I'd been in education that whole time. And so it seemed to me like it wasn't that much of an enormous step to take. So I convinced two of my colleagues who'd also had a scientific background and were doing the MBA to start a company. And that was, I don't know, 25 years ago or something. And I've been doing it ever since. So it's just how my career has evolved in quite an unusual way, I guess.
And do you think that you were saying about personality types and things that tests that you did that show that you wouldn't be suited, for example, to a corporate job, like being your own boss and making your own decisions and building something for yourself was really what motivated you?
Yeah, I think so. And a lot of that came from my father, really. He was a farmer, and so he was very independent and determined and knew his path in life. And I think a lot of that rubbed off on me with that entrepreneurial traits that clearly I had at quite a young age.
Yes. So you mentioned about you'd persuaded a couple of people. So my next question was that do you have co-founders or did you do it solo? So you've got co-founders. So what was your thinking behind that decision, not to do it yourself, but to have people on the journey with you?
Well, PheroSyn is a spin out from Rothamsted Research, which is the oldest continuous agricultural research institute in the world. And they've been researching pheromones for a very long time. So clearly there was a massive, and still is a massive scientific base and knowledge there at Rothamsted. And so my co-founder, Daniel Bahia, was working at Rothamsted, and he actually saw the opportunity in the marketplace. And it was my farming background that the two of us together saw an opportunity for using pheromones in this manner. And lots of people have used pheromones historically. They have been proven to work in the field, but it's really a case of it being a very limited marketplace because they're so complicated to make. And it was that part of the synthetic process that we were able to add value to and work in that area of technology innovation.
And do you find that having both, two of you, you can spin things off each other? It's really helpful rather than just you trying to do it alone.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Daniel is much better at a lot of the things that I really don't like to do. And so we've been able to really balance our skill sets and focus on what we're strong at. Definitely. He's a very organized fellow, which I really like.
It's interesting saying that because I think a lot of founders say if they have a co-founder, one or two partners potentially, and that everybody has their areas of expertise and it works so well that way. Because like you say, we can't be great at everything. So really helpful to split up those tasks.
Absolutely.
So when you started, did you join an accelerator or a boot camp in the early stages? And if you did, why? And if you didn't, why not?
We did actually. So some of the first funding for the company came from the Shape Climate Change program, which I was an entrepreneur mentor for as well.
Right.
And there was some mentorship provided through that program. We also joined Sustainable Ventures, which has an accelerator program, and Rockstart, which is an accelerator, agri-tech focused accelerator in the Netherlands. And actually, what we found with Rockstart in particular was that they were able to help us from a very early stage, long before they'd invested. And so we kind of developed a relationship with them where we knew the accelerator was going to be beneficial to us. And I always think you can't get enough advice. I love getting other people's opinions. So for me, those early steps with people along your side is really valuable.
And you mentioned that you get that help, you get that expertise from other people. Any other benefits? And would you say to people if they're starting out an accelerator program, it's a good thing to do?
Well, I think it depends on the accelerator. There are lots and lots of accelerators. That's one thing I
Right.
noticed the difference between, the North America and the European model. At least when I was active in North America, there were nothing like the type of accelerator programs that are available in Europe and the UK at the moment.
Interesting.
So I think you have to be fairly careful that you pick the right one. I think if you get the right angel investors involved, I mean, Angel Academy is a great example of this. You can really get a lot of help as well from your angel investors. So it's about getting the right people and having the right relationships. So whether it's an accelerator or not, I don't think it's quite as important as the relationships that you develop.
Good point. So what was the right point to raise investment, and how did you find that fundraising journey?
Well, I think for us, when I first got involved in the company, there was a lot of structural issues. And so we had to kind of reassess the structure of the company. And that is one thing also I've noticed about Europe is that often structurally the cap table is not ideal for raising funding. So we rearranged that and we got that to a point where it was investable. And that took quite a lot of time, but clearly we weren't going to get investment until those foundational stones were in place. When they were, it took us probably about a year to actually raise funding, really, through that process, getting all the documentation in place and then being ready to go out and raise. So, actually being in a position of knowing your pitch really well, knowing everything about the company, it takes a while. It takes a long time. But I think we raised about the right time. It would have been nice and more comfortable to have raised 6 months earlier, but we perhaps weren't ready at that point in time.
Great point. That it, from what I've seen with companies, there's so much involved in the paperwork you've got to do, the presentations, the documentation, all of this. Like you say, it takes a long time. Even getting the SCIS or EIS certification, all of that is very long-winded, isn't it?
Yeah, and lots of it you have no control over either. It's just waiting for other parties to make those decisions and get that paperwork in place.
Exactly. So tell us about, please, the best and the most challenging aspects about what you are doing.
For me, the best thing about entrepreneurship is sharing the journey with people and watching people grow as you grow. And so, it's a constant learning journey. I absolutely love that. I love building teams and watching people evolve and grow in their own roles. So for me, that's really personally valuable. The most challenging aspects probably are also in those personal relationships. When you start to take on staff, you start to take on other issues that you're not used to as a founder. So you need guidance with that. When you're working with big institutions, as we are, you also need to understand that their pace is not the same as a small startup. So there's lots of issues and challenges around timing and expediency. In a startup, you have to move as quickly as you possibly can. Whereas large institutions that have been around for hundreds of years don't have that same motivation or kind of reward system. So yeah, those relationships are always the challenging part, and getting that right is the most critical component in a startup, I think.
Thank you. So give us your top advice, please, Mary. So somebody else beginning their journey, what would you say? What's your top things to think about?
I've been asked this question a lot, and I always come back to the same answer, which is to surround yourself by people that are more knowledgeable than you are. It never ceases to amaze me how many amazing people will help you because they want to give something back. They're life career people. They've built a career and built a business, and they want to give back. And lots of people are very, very happy to do that. I do that myself as well. And I think that you can get so much help. So I would say my most valuable piece of advice would be to surround yourself by people that know more than you do. Just reach out and make those connections.
And that's interesting because I spoke with Kaylee from Deployed, and she said exactly the same, really, and that there was somebody they thought, oh, they'd be brilliant, and she just contacted them on LinkedIn, wasn't sure she'd get a response, and she did. And so it's about being brave and just contacting people and saying, can you help? And that's like it's worked for you as well.
Absolutely. And I also think once you get investors involved, to reach out to them and ask for help as well. Be really
Yeah.
open. I am very open with our investors, and I think they
Yes.
have enormous networks that we can tap into, and people that have tremendous amount of experience are willing to offer that to you as a startup.
Yes. So tell us about the future. What's in store for you and for PheroSyn going forward?
Well, I'm very keen on building a solid company with good revenue and good potential. And we're working in this white space where other pheromone companies aren't working. So we're doing that purposefully because we want to become part of something bigger so that we can really be impactful in the marketplace. I want to see farmers change their ways in the way that they use pesticides, often at sight of first pest, rather than really understanding whether the pest pressure is economically significant or not. So I want to see all of those behaviors change. I want to see the regulators change their approach to how pheromones and biologicals are regulated, which I think will have to happen, certainly if we're going to meet some of these more global targets that the EU and others are suggesting we need to meet, and we all know we need to meet. So all of these things are very important to me, and I want to be part of that bigger journey and that bigger picture, and have PheroSyn really drive that forward as much as we can alongside our partners.
It's a really purposeful company, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
we
that's
we have a
brilliant.
mission. We understand our mission. We're all behind the same approach, and we all believe that we need to create a more sustainable food ecosystem.
Absolutely. Well, Mary, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been lovely to talk with you.
Oh, Laura, thank you for having me. It's been really lovely to talk to you as well.